I just watched a crazy game, a crazy D1 women's hockey championship game that is. Wisconsin took this nail-biter by a score of 4-3 in overtime thanks to 2 goals by future star Kirsten Simms. With the win, Wisconsin took their 8th total national championship title. This was actually my first time following women's college hockey like this, and it definitely won't be my last, because wow, was this game ever exciting. There were so many future PWHL stars playing in this game, but before we talk about that, let's discuss this game over. Ohio State would jump out to an early lead not even halfway through the first period thanks to a shorthanded goal by Joy Dunn, who's the younger sister of Ottawa Charge D Jinsey Rose and is, if I remember correctly, the projected first overall pick for the 2027 PWHL draft. Unfortunately for them, they're not in the PWHL quite yet, so there's no jailbait rule, because off the ensuing face-off, Layla Edwards would tie it up for Wisconsin just 12 seconds after the scoring was opened. Both these players are future PWHL stars, and we'll see them later on in this year's Women's Worlds. It didn't take long for Ohio State to answer back, as Sloan Matthews stole the puck and sniped it off an odd player rush to give Ohio State the lead back. Both of Ohio State's first 2 goals were unassisted. What a shot this was by Matthews, coming in fast off the rush. Heading into the second period, Ohio State got an immediate rush right off the face-off, and it only took 10 seconds for Em Peschel to rip one home and make the lead 3-1 Ohio State. At this point I did start to get a little bit nervous for Wisconsin, but I knew how stacked this team was and knew they weren't going to go down without a fight. Around 5 minutes later, great stick work by Kirsten Simms led to Caroline Harvey ripping one home, cutting the lead to 1. This year, Harvey will be making her 6th straight appearance with the US national team at the Women's Worlds. I say 6 because 2022 had both the Olympics and the Worlds in it due to the 2020 tournament being cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. There wasn't any more scoring for a while after this, but each team still had a few good chances. Wisconsin dominated most of the third period. It wasn't until the final 2 minutes of the third period when the turning point in the game came. With a minute 50 left in the game, Ohio State was called for having too many players on the ice at a very crucial point. Wisconsin had their chances, but this one by Layla Edwards I definitely thought had gone in. It turns out Maddie Wheeler of Ohio State had closed her hand on the puck after Wisconsin challenged the play. Apparently, Layla Edwards was yelling at the coaches to challenge that, as revealed on the most recent episode of Jocks and Jills. Be sure to check it out if you haven't, as there were 5 different interviews showcased on this episode. Because of this, Wisconsin then had a choice to either take a 2-minute minor penalty or take a penalty shot, which is an interesting rule. Of course they chose penalty shot in this case because they needed an immediate goal. Wisconsin coach Mark Johnson then started asking the players who wants it. It was revealed that all the players started shouting for Kirsten Simms to take it, which she then finally raised her hand. And she ended up scoring the most clutch goal of the season. After the fact, it was questioned whether Simms had gone backwards with the puck, with the Ohio State coaches even looking at it, but it ended up not challenging. When I saw it live, even I was worried that possibly it would be called back because of that. But instead, we got a tie game with 18.9 seconds left and headed into overtime now. This scenario actually reminded me of the 1979 Stanley Cup semi-final between the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens. It was when Boston got a too many men call with about 2.5 minutes left to go in regulation, leading 4-3. On the ensuing power play, Guy Lafleur would tie the game up and send it to overtime, with Montreal then winning the game in overtime thanks to a goal by Yvonne Lambert. That year they would end up winning their 4th straight Stanley Cup after defeating the New York Rangers in the final. But back to the Frozen Four championship game. Wisconsin would dominate the overtime. It was up until we saw this happen.
Here by Murphy in her own end, poised pass out to center for Eden, sweeping down the wall. Here comes Eden, looking, firing, save made, rebound, scores! Simms wins the national championship in overtime.
Kirsten Simms would score her 2nd of the game to win Wisconsin the championship, getting revenge from Ohio State after last year. After this went in, I saw Tessa Bonhomme over on X questioning whether if this play was offside or not. When I took another look at it, I really started to think, oh no, that was close, what if they do call that back? But in the end, there was no challenge and the goal ended up standing. During the celebration, I even remember seeing Ohio State captain Jenna Buglioni crying. When I saw that, it made me want to tell her, don't worry, in a few months you'll hear your name called at the next PWHL draft. Aside from that, this was a very deserving win for Wisconsin, I believe. Just look at their roster, they're incredibly stacked. They have 5 players that are going to be playing for USA at this year's Women's Worlds. One player they have that didn't make the cut, however, is 5th-year player and also this year's Patty Kazmar Award winner, Casey O'Brien. I don't know how they didn't choose her this time around after her best college season of her career. 26 goals, 62 assists, and only 2 penalty minutes? The team did give her a run in the first leg of this year's rivalry series. I don't really remember too much of how she played, but I thought that they would give her another run right before she's due to be drafted this year. I think it's likely that she's the number 1 overall pick if we don't see Abby Murphy declare this year. It's also up in the air whether or not we'll see Lacey Eden of Wisconsin declare this year. All these players I've talked about we're going to see play for Team USA in this year's Worlds, including Wisconsin goalie Ava McNaughton, who just had an unbelievable stat line this season. Can you just imagine how stacked next year's PWHL draft is going to be if we don't see Abby Murphy or Lacey Eden declare this season? All that talent coming into the league all at once is just going to be insane. I'm super pumped to see what's going to happen. I know the discussion right now whether or not Abby Murphy will declare is based on the decision on expansion. Truthfully, I'd love to see Murphy and Eden enter the league after this season because I know they both have what it takes right now. If we have to wait another year though, that's not that big of a deal, I don't think. But I'd love to see them in after this season because I think it would be better if talent gradually came in after each season as the league progresses, rather than all at once. I know some fans are going to find the latter scenario a lot more exciting though. I'm curious though, leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts on that sort of situation. So that's my full recap of the Frozen 4 Championship game as well as discussion about PWHL prospects. We're expected to hear some news on PWHL expansion shortly. The takeover tour ends in a few days, so expect to hear something around that time. My next video will be discussing my thoughts on the tour as well as the potential expansion where I think it should occur. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to give it a like. I'm going for 5 likes on this video. If you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more women's hockey content. Watch my most recent upload over here if you haven't already seen it. Be sure to also check out my other content over on my Instagram, X, and TikTok. I post about events going on around the league as well as highlights over there. But that will wrap it up for now and I'll see you next week.